What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Like many other creators over the last couple of days, I have been playing the latest Grayzone Warfare update. That update, of course, entitled Winds of War. This was an early access preview for specific creators to get hands on the game, provide feedback to the developers, and share our thoughts with our communities before the update actually drops. And surprise, today, May 22nd, the update is dropping, and so you guys will all have hands-on soon. In this video, I want to go over the major changes to the game that I was able to experience, as well as my thoughts on the state of Grayzone Warfare and if it is worth your time now in 2025. Now, the update includes a massive overhaul to the open world PvE tactical shooter. The preview that we played, which is likely a little bit different than the final release, allowed us to experience all of the new content. This means we started playing with maxed out traders and an inventory full of goodies that we could use during our time in the game. Winds of War brings major changes to the game, including dynamic weather, structured PvP in the form of conflict zones, control points or cops, as well as tons of new weapons and gear and other significant gameplay changes. In my time with the preview, I spent about 6 hours playing the preview build, completing tasks, participating in PvP, and exploring every new feature. Now, if we look back at the history of Grayzone Warfare really over the last year or so, what we saw was initial really strong sales that were somewhat muted because there were performance issues for folks on various types of rigs and cards. Additionally, those players who did stick around only did so for a certain amount of time, and as they got through tasks and they experienced the gameplay loop, concurrent player numbers started to fall off. And so the Winds of War update really does feel like a relaunch of the game, a huge step forward in what Grayzone Warfare ultimately is striving to be. The update enhances the immersion that players experience while they're in the field. It streamlines the progression across tasks, and it adds purpose to PvP encounters. Hopefully, some of these changes will bring players back to the game. The update refines the game's open world chaos into a more cohesive experience, and it balances that tactical depth that we all know and love from games like this with accessibility that makes it appealing to folks like me who don't have a ton of time to game. The PVE improvements are significant. The dynamic weather makes PVE that much more enticing and exciting, and the update is promising, and it could reinvigorate the community. The PVE changes are a major highlight, especially for me, and the task system now allows accepting and completing missions while you're in the field. This reduces trips back to the main base. For example, I cleared the entire starter town, all of the tasks associated with it, in just 3 trips out to the field. Completed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 tasks before I really needed to come refit. Make that 11 tasks. Wild. The update allowed me to stay into the field longer and complete multiple tasks each time I was out without having to return back to the main base. It kept me immersed in the open world environment, continuously fighting and grinding and having to plan for these long trips to the field, which is a major strength of the game. The long field ops require careful planning though. I had to pack enough ammunition and food and water and medical supplies to sustain the extended missions. This added some depth to the gameplay, and it forced me to manage my resources very carefully and stay ready for unexpected fights. When I first launched the Winds of War update, I went to the field and stayed out for about 90 minutes. In that 90 minutes, I went from level 1 to level 5 without returning back to the main base, and I completed 11 tasks. That's exactly the type of pacing and gameplay loop that players want from this experience. They don't want to jump in a taxi in the form of a little bird and fly back to base after they go out and collect X number of widgets to complete a task. They want to stay out there and they want to keep fighting and keep progressing, and they want to do it faster than they were doing it in the past. Another major overhaul to the PvE system is the addition of control points, or cops. These cops serve as a field hub where you can turn in task items, trade with vendors, and restock your gear without having to go all the way back to base.
In the area. I've come to clear 'em out.
Godspeed, my dude. This streamlines the progression, which lets you stay out in the action longer. For example, you can drop off the collected materials that you might pick up for various tasks, buy extra magazines, and then jump back into the mission right away. On the PvP side, cops are strategic objectives where factions compete for control. To capture a cop, you have to clear out all the NPCs and the enemy players and then interact with a laptop at the cop to capture it for your faction. During our time in the preview, we ran into some issues with the cops. Namely, there was infinite and unrestricted respawns for defenders at the cop. When you die, you can either respawn back at your main base, or you can spawn at the nearest cop. This basically meant that attackers who were obviously further away from their own resources and their own cops would have to make the trip on foot or by helicopter all the way back to the assault, where defenders were just instantaneously responding. This was broken, and it was feedback that we provided to the developers, and to their credit, they fixed it almost immediately, and the version of the game that you will be playing today has added restrictions on those respawns. Dude, wait right here, I'll be right back.
All units, we're taking fire from an enemy PMC. Heads
What's up, dude? I'm back.
Belfast is taking fire.
Thanks for hanging, I appreciate it. Now, if a cop is contested, meaning an AI is aggroed or a player is attacked in vicinity of the cop, respawns at that cop will be blocked until the fighting subsides. The boys are going for it. They killed my homies.
Objective secured. Stalwart is under our control.
He wants me to push in, which seems prudent until you realize that they've been farmed this whole time, and adding one more person to a frontal assault without Overwatch doesn't exactly improve your chances. But I'll whip it around to the other side. This is so stupid.
Hostile PMC engaged. Commencing offensive.
Friendly upstairs.
How did you get up top here, Paris?
Another addition on the PvE front are strike missions. Strike missions are a new co-op feature for squads. They are time-sensitive, in-game style challenges that require at least 2 players to be squatted to accept the task. Strikes appear on the map with tight timers. They're designed with high risk and high reward in mind. The missions push your squad to coordinate under pressure. You face aggressive AI and really complex objectives that have multiple layers. It's a fresh addition to the formula, which gives players the opportunity to participate in co-op sessions in a more intense and rewarding way. Now back to PvP. The system has been revamped in a way that I think adds some really important purpose and direction to Grayzone warfare. Previously, PvP was a thrill that a player could choose to engage in, but there weren't really any tangible rewards. You kind of did enough PvE to get stuff that was good enough for PvP, and then you went out and you camped HLZs and you bragged about it to your friends, but there wasn't really any reason to go engage in those tasks unless you were just trying to have some fights and have some fun. But now, capturing cops grants your faction control of a resupply point that spawns those non-player character PMCs to defend them, and they provide an area for your other players to refit while they're in the field. So there's a tangible benefit to gaining this territory on behalf of your faction and advancing your front line. Conflict zones are yet another addition. These are red circles that spawn on the map and mark areas where active PvP is occurring. So anytime one player is engaged with another in your faction or another faction, these circles appear on the map and you can see them and you're notified that they're there, and you can choose to go and jump into that fight and support your faction if you want to, but it also gives you enough information to avoid the fight if you are trying to grind away on your PvE tasks. In this way, it gives the player more information to make a more informed decision, and it allows the player to guide their experience towards what they want to go do. I found myself grinding away on my PvE tasks and getting through that starter town because that was my goal at the time, and the markers on the map for the conflict zones gave me enough information to do that. Similarly, once I wanted to go out and get in some gunfights with other players, it's really easy to find them because they're already marked on the map. So you just go in that vicinity, choose to enter that area in a way that makes tactical sense, and start hunting bad guys. Oh no. I'm so getting shot coming off this bird. North.
Contractors exchanging fire. Standing by.
Oh no. Land here. Oh no. See, they're all going straight nose on the bad guys, which, like, don't get me wrong, is more fun. But also more dangerous. Jesus! There were some issues in the preview with the way that voice-over notifications occurred for both conflict zones and cop control. These new voice-over notifications are basically a dude jumping on the radio from your faction back at main base and informing you of what's going on around you. Unfortunately, during the preview, these were triggered globally. So anytime a cop was contested or anytime there was a fight anywhere on the map, we got this loud, spammy voice-over notification. Fortunately, the developers have already gone in and fixed this issue. You will not be getting that same voiceover notification spam, and now there are strict radiuses around each player, so if a cop is on the other side of the map, you're not going to get notified about it. However, if it's next to you, you will get notified about it. Similarly, there's also voiceover notifications if a friendly player is near you. So if you're out and you're doing your tasks by yourself and just slaying everything that moves, now if one of your buddies comes somewhere nearby you, you'll get a notification that there are friendlies in the area. This is greatly assisting in reducing fratricide. Those same friendly players are also now marked with an armband, so you'll see an armband on their player character, which will hopefully help you identify them and not shoot them. Now, the other major addition in the Winds of War update is dynamic weather, and frankly, I think it's a game changer. Beyond the persistent day and night cycle that we've had for a while now, we have also rain and fog and precipitation that shifts the way that you play the game. There's a forecast in your map, which allows you to look out a few hours into the future and see what kind of light conditions there's going to be, what kind of weather conditions there's going to be. And I found myself referring to this forecast often when I was choosing my kits to go out into the field. If it's going to be extremely foggy and extremely rainy, I know that my optic isn't going to be able to punch out through that fog. And so I would choose something that was a little bit harder hitting closer up. Maybe bring a shotgun, maybe bring the new MP7. Like we got some misty conditions coming in the next hour. Visibility is going to get worse even as the sun comes up. It also informed the way that I chose my headgear, because now if it's raining, each helmet and hat has its own precipitation mitigation score. And the score refers to how well it keeps rain off of the screen. This is super important with night vision, obviously. It's also important when you're just running around. I like seeing the rain on the screen. I think it is really immersive, and it's an interesting way to add yet another dynamic to the game. And now you have to consider what kind of headgear you're wearing, because it will mitigate the impact of obstructed vision. The visuals with the weather updates are absolutely stunning. It makes me feel like I am living and playing and participating in a real world, and it adds immersion that I've always hoped for in a game like this. The raindrops show up on your nods, and it's actually, you know, a higher fidelity quality than you would expect to see under real nods, but it's perfect for the game world. But this comes at a cost, because the heavy rain also renders nods almost unusable. It blurs your vision so much that it's better just to raise your nods. In fact, the nights aren't quite dark enough to justify running with your nods all the time. So a lot of times I was throwing nods on my helmet, but really only flipping them down whenever I needed to see in extremely dark indoor areas. Other than that, like, nods up was really the way to go. And I hope that they come up with some solution, either make the nods better, even better than they would be in real life, or make the nights so dark that even gamma boosters won't be able to see detail by doing that. And that's got to be the balance that they strive for. God, these things are useless. Like, objectively useless in this light with the rain, the humidity. Now, historically, one of the major concerns with Grayzone Warfare has been the performance of the game. I'm on a 4090, I have an i9, I have 64 gigs of RAM. It's a very good computer, and I found that I was getting somewhere around 100 to 120 frames pretty reliably, but I did go into my settings and I maxed out all the visual stuff, but then I changed my anti-aliasing over to FSR and I turned on frame generation, which was able to get me, you know, beautiful looking scene, but also really good performance. I'm hopeful that others are able to achieve the same performance that I've showed in this video, and I deliberately left my frame counter on for all of this footage so that you guys can take a look at that. Of course, performance is going to vary widely across systems, and I know during the preview, at least one of my content creator buddies was unable to get into the build probably a technical issue on his end, but with PC gaming, we know how this goes. I am very, very hopeful that mid-tier rigs with the right settings are going to be able to play this seamlessly. The Winds of War update also adds a ton of new gear, so much so that I can't even like list it all here. It would be moot, but you can look at it in the patch notes. I got hands on the new SVD Dragunov in like a sick-ass tactical configuration. I also got hands on the new MP7, a phenomenal little zipper of a subgun, and an MCX. I really enjoyed the MCX a lot, just like the AR pattern guns in the game and the other AK patterns in the game. You can build it from scratch. This is true of all of these guns, and customize them to your heart's content. There's dozens and dozens of new gun parts in the game as well, so you can just LARP your face off and build something that specifically meets your needs, which I really, really enjoy. Another major update on the equipment side is the addition of mortars. So now you can actually call for fire while you're in the field. Mortars aren't cheap, but you can purchase them and then leave them in your inventory back at a cop or your main base. You can purchase either the short range, medium range, or long range variant of the mortars. And then by opening your mini map, toggling over to the tab that says mortars, you can call for fire and it'll send one of those rounds right on that point. The system's like very new and it's very simple, but it's definitely fun. I used it in PvP. I didn't actually score any hits on the PvP side, but I did call for fire with my homies. Like when I was pushing this point, I asked for them to put some mortars on a target that I was pushing. That was really cool. And then I used it in PvE as well to quickly smash a couple corners inside of a compound that I was pushing just to test it. And it was freaking sick.
Solid copy. Rounds on the way shortly. Roger that. Calculating fire solution now.
In addition to some of the new guns, there's also some new kit. We've got Victos brand clothing. We've also got Gators iPro, and these are both real brands. Like I love that Grayzone reaches out to real world brands that don't suck and partners with them. And actually, Madfinger and Gators, in their infinite grace and wisdom, thought that I would be a great candidate to receive a care package from them, and so I actually have a care package from Gators. I've not opened this yet. I'm going to open it with you guys now. To see what they sent me. You guys got to get you a little Stabby Labs pocket knife. This thing's insane. You also got to get your daughter who makes you sick bracelets. But yeah, look at that. Isn't that funny as hell? I love this thing. Gators has a great reputation. They make ballistic frames, or ballistic lenses, and they also use aluminum frames. It's all made in America stuff. I've not owned their products before, but I'm certainly familiar with them, and I'm excited to see what they sent today. Oh, hey, Justin, I hope you love this Gators kit courtesy of Grayzone, Scott. I appreciate it, Scott. Grayzone, thanks for the dudes over at Gators and Grayzone for making this happen. T-shirt, what's up? Always down for another T-shirt. Looks like we got a slap that's going on the gun safe for sure. Thank you, boys. And a patch. That's sick. That'll go on the patch wall. Yeah, so these are, the box says these are the ammo can. It's literally an ammo can. What? You see this? What's in here? Oh, that's sick. This is actually, look, it's actually like a foamed out iPro holder, presumably for their lenses, which is helpful because like when I go shoot and stuff, I'll just like, you know, my gun belt and my bag and stuff are back there. I'll just like chuck my iPro into the bag and hope it works out. It doesn't always work out. Sometimes it gets pretty scratched up. So that's actually like a hardened freaking case is appreciated. Yo, nice. So these are the Gator Magnums. They're smoke lenses, polarized. Gator's known, obviously, like rugged, made in America stuff. They've also got the aluminum frame. So these are pretty freaking serious. Huge shout out to the dudes over at Gators and for the team at Madfinger for connecting us. These are sick and I appreciate it. All right. So in conclusion, Winds of War seems like it is a strong update that could very much bring players back to Grayzone Warfare. I think it certainly will bring me back to Grayzone Warfare. It is a game that I will keep in the rotation. It is certainly a game that I want to play in co-op now, particularly with the PVE changes, allowing me to advance more quickly, and the structured PvP environment, as well as the new strike missions. The PvE task system as a whole is much smoother and allows players with limited time like me to stay immersed and progress faster. The addition of cops as well as those strike missions add structure to both the PvE and the PvP gameplay, and the conflict zones give you a reason to actually go out and fight in PvP engagements. The dynamic weather is gorgeous, though the nods and the lighting still need some work, Performance seems solid, at least on high-end systems. Your rig will ultimately dictate your experience. And the new weapons, the new gear, this of course is all based off my experiences in a preview build, which is going to differ some from what is released today. But it does have me excited to keep playing. The question is it going to be enough to bring back the player base? Is this going to bring you back to Grayzone Warfare? I'd love to hear your take on all the changes down below. I hope that you guys enjoyed today's video. I really do appreciate you watching it. I am Controlled Pairs. This has been Grayzone Warfare, and I'll see you guys in the next one.